Success doesn't wait for anyone, but sometimes we do. Meet Rohan, a young man full of dreams and potential but stuck in the trap of waiting. He believed that success would somehow come to him without the need for action, without the need for hard work. Every day he sat by the sidelines watching others chase their goals, while he waited for the perfect moment to start. Rohan believed that someday, somehow things would change on their own, and someone else would take the first step for him. His days were spent in the comfort of his routine. He convinced himself that there was no rush. "I'll start tomorrow," he often said, convincing himself that waiting would make everything fall into place. While others worked tirelessly to make their dreams a reality, Rohan remained passive, expecting life to hand him opportunities without any effort on his part. It wasn't that he didn't want success. It was just that he believed the road would somehow become easier, that he wouldn't need to fight for it. The illusion of waiting began to consume him. Each day that passed without taking action was a day he wasted. He continued to wait for the perfect moment to act, believing that effort wasn't necessary, that success would just appear. But deep down, Rohan knew he wasn't living the life he could have. The comfort of waiting had turned into a cage, trapping him in a cycle of laziness and hesitation, leaving his dreams unfulfilled. Rohan had been eyeing a job opening for months, believing it would be the breakthrough he had been waiting for. The position was perfect, exactly what he had dreamed of, offering the opportunity to grow and prove himself. Every day he told himself he'd apply tomorrow, certain that he had plenty of time. But as the days passed, he hesitated, waiting for the right moment, thinking the timing would just align perfectly. He convinced himself that someone would eventually give him a nudge, or that the job would still be available when he was ready. One afternoon, Rohan finally gathered the courage to submit his application, only to find that the position had been filled. The job he had wanted so badly was now in someone else's hands. The realization hit him like a cold wave. He had waited too long. Someone else had seen the opportunity and acted on it, while Rohan had sat on the sidelines waiting for the perfect moment that never came. A deep sense of regret settled in. Rohan was frustrated with himself, overwhelmed by the thought that his own procrastination had cost him a chance he could have had. As the sting of disappointment faded, the lesson began to sink in. He realized that waiting for the perfect circumstances, or for someone else to make the first move, would never lead to success. Nothing would be handed to him. If he wanted to change his life, he had to take the first step himself. Rohan's disappointment from losing the job was the wake-up call he needed. He couldn't afford to sit back anymore, waiting for things to fall into his lap. Motivated by his regret, he made a decision that would change the course of his life. No more waiting. He would stop relying on the hope that things would magically come together. From that moment on, he took full responsibility for his own future, committing to work hard and pursue his dreams, even if the journey seemed difficult. As Rohan started taking action, the road was far from easy. Every step he took seemed to be met with obstacles. He faced rejection after rejection, and found himself doubting if he was on the right path. The road to success was long, and the initial progress felt slow. But each day Rohan pushed forward, learning the value of consistency and discipline. He understood now that success wasn't about waiting for things to align perfectly. It was about showing up every day, even when it was hard, and doing the work regardless of the outcome. Soon, Rohan began to see small successes: an interview, a project completed, a skill learned. These moments of accomplishment fueled his determination. His confidence grew, and he realized that the effort, the hustle, and the commitment to his goals were far more rewarding than any waiting he had done in the past. He no longer just dreamed of success, he was creating it through his own actions. As Rohan continued on his journey, the initial excitement of taking action began to wear off. The path he was walking wasn't as simple as he had imagined. Doubts crept in at every turn, whispering to him that maybe he wasn't cut out for this after all. There were days when the weight of his work felt too much to bear, and moments when he longed to return to the comfort of waiting, hoping that someone would step in and guide him. The temptation to give up and wait for help was strong, and he found himself questioning if he had made the right choice. But deep inside, Rohan knew he couldn't go back to his old habits. He had learned a valuable lesson from his previous failure, the one where he lost an opportunity simply because he didn't take action. He had promised himself he wouldn't fall into that trap again. So despite the doubts that tried to cloud his mind, Rohan reminded himself that success wasn't about waiting for the perfect moment. It was about working through the struggles and the challenges, doing what needed to be done even when no one else was watching. With a deep breath, Rohan pushed through his self-doubt. He didn't see immediate results, but he kept going, trusting that persistence would pay off. Slowly, his efforts began to bear fruit. The progress wasn't always visible right away, but with each small step he gained momentum. Rohan realized that the breakthrough didn't come from waiting. It came from continuing to work even when the rewards seemed distant. His determination was starting to shape his future, one step at a time. After months of relentless effort, Rohan stood at the point he once thought impossible. He had finally achieved the success he had long dreamed of. The job he had once hoped for was now his, not because he waited for the perfect opportunity or hoped for someone to lend a hand, but because he had taken the initiative and worked tirelessly to make it happen. The rewards were sweet, but it wasn't just the achievement that filled him with pride. It was the journey that had brought him here. Looking back, Rohan saw how far he had come. The countless hours of work, the obstacles, the moments of doubt, all of it had shaped him into someone stronger, more capable, and more confident than he had ever imagined. He realized that the true value of success wasn't in the destination, but in the persistence and self-reliance it took to reach it. The road hadn't been easy, but every step he took was a step closer to the person he had always wanted to be. Success, he now understood, wasn't something that was handed to him. It was something he built piece by piece through his own efforts. With a deep breath, Rohan smiled to himself. He knew now that waiting for others to change his life was never the answer. The power to shape his future was in his hands, and all it took was the courage to take that first step.